What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. We've talked a lot on the YouTube channel about Dead Space and this franchise, guys, from the past to the present and what we were hoping and what we have been hoping for in the future, that being Dead Space 4. And I want to go ahead and talk in this segment of the show, guys, about some concerns I have about Dead Space 4 ever happening. And obviously these have been concerns that we've had for a while, but the longer that time goes and you don't hear any word, any rumblings, any real speculation of a Dead Space 4 coming, it does give you some concern. So let's talk about it, guys. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Dead Space and this franchise. You guys can check out all of my Dead Space content here on YouTube. But Dead Space 4 is a title that I've absolutely have wanted to see for quite some time. Dead Space is one of my favorite franchises when it comes to the horror space, the horror genre. Absolutely love Dead Space. It is up there with some of the greatest ever when it comes to the horror video games, right? Let's get the positives out of the way first. Number one, guys, is that Glenn Schofield is obviously one of the creators of the Dead Space universe. They are working, him and his studio, are working on none other than a new title that's going to be coming out called the Callisto Protocol. And a lot of people are tying this in with none other than, of course, Dead Space, because it kind of has those creepy vibes and you kind of those thoughts possibly that this is going to be a Dead Space spin-off or something of that nature. But it's been confirmed, guys, that it's actually in the PUBG universe, which I think is very intriguing to say the least. And we've been talking about the Callisto Protocol here on the YouTube channel as well. But that's a real positive sign. That tells us that, look, Dead Space may be, a game that came out a while back, that being Dead Space 3 and such, the latest in the franchise, but there are still people that are kind of giving almost a kudos to the past, a kudos to Dead Space, and even in their most, up-and-coming games. In this case, with Glenn Schofield being none other than the Callisto Protocol. So there are positive things happening in the horror space. I mean, we see this amongst so many other games that are coming out, guys, that are, really trying to raise the bar when it comes to the horror genre. We're starting to see more and more, there is a real want and need for more horror games in the video game industry, right? And it kind of reminds me of the filmmaking industry. Horror genre has always been a thing, but it's actually become more and more popular over the past number of years now. And so now with video games, I think we're starting to see that more right now. The Last of Us Part 2 coming out, and you're starting to see more and more titles that are trying to kind of be somewhat like The Last of Us. But then you have other titles that are trying to kind of reminisce of the past, kind of like of games like Dead Space. So even though Dead Space and there's real concern I have for Dead Space 4, I'm very excited about the future of the horror genre. Let's get that out of the way. And the Callisto Protocol in particular when it comes to that. I mean, there's a multitude of games, guys. Resident Evil Village. And I mean, the list goes on and on of all kinds of different titles coming out in the horror space. But Dead Space 4 in particular, we know that Visceral Games obviously was, shut down by EA. EA owns the rights to Dead Space and this franchise, at least at this point. So I believe there's one of two things that could really, happen. Obviously, EA could very well just leave Dead Space in a limbo state, a state of no return, to never be rebooted ever again. Or they could give the reins to another, company or to a new development team to kind of do a reboot, a soft reboot of the Dead Space franchise, which I think would be very smart. Personally, you start with like a remaster of the first three, the original trilogy, and then you come out with a Dead Space 4. I think it would make a lot of sense to me. And I still think that there is a very passionate fan base here, especially with the growing amount of, community around the horror genre. I think Dead Space 4 absolutely should be a part of that ecosystem. The other thing, though, that, we talk about is that they could sell the IP, which is pretty unlikely when we look at the grand scope of the video game industry and how things work. Usually you're not seeing development companies or publishers buy just individual IPs. We see things like Microsoft buying out all of Bethesda, right? Buying out the entire company and everything that they hold, all the IPs that they have. We see Microsoft doing that. Obviously now Xbox has the exclusive rights to Bethesda's titles moving forward. We see things like that happening. But seeing individual IPs being sold and bought, we don't see that as much, which I think that should be something that should start happening more often. But EA could sell the IP of Dead Space if they decided to the highest bidder, and I'm sure there would be some companies would be interested in rebooting Dead Space, to say the least. We know that Dead Space, guys, the mistakes that were made were really within Dead Space 3. The first game was great. Dead Space 2 I thought was even better than the first one. And then third game was a real valley to the peaks we were getting in Dead Space 1 and 2. Obviously, going from the concept of what made Dead Space so great in the first two games was obviously a horror game with action elements. But what they did in Dead Space 3 was they flip-flopped it. They made it an action game with some horror elements in it. Completely went against what Dead Space was all about from the first two titles. And then obviously they kind of added co-op a little bit, too little too late sort of thing, adding co-op. The reviews were not good for Dead Space 3, and the sales were not good at all, according to EA and what they were expecting to make from Dead Space 3, ultimately resulting in Visceral Games being shut down and the state of none other than Dead Space in this franchise being put into a place of unknowns. So I'm concerned, guys, because we're starting to see more and more companies now. It seems that developers and people working on some of these titles are moving, on to other studios, other places, and some of those individuals really appreciate what was, with some of these games that they've worked on in the past, like, for example, Dead Space, or another one would be StarCraft. You look at what's going on with Blizzard and with StarCraft in that franchise, a lot of people ended up leaving Blizzard to join a new studio that was formed, Frost Giant Studios, or join Dreamhaven, which was also created. And what you're seeing is that these guys are moving over to other studios and are creating new RTS titles. Whereas like StarCraft, being the RTS title of our time, it doesn't seem like there is much going on there as far as like Blizzard that they're going to continue making more StarCraft games. Because if they were, I feel like a lot of these people that were former employees now would still be at Blizzard working on StarCraft 3, but instead they're moving on to other studios. I see that also in a space like the horror genre, where you see guys and girls that end up leaving these development studios and move on to other studios. And a lot of times they're going to another studio where there's an ambition, there is a real vision for another game similar to something they've already worked on. So, for example, the Callisto Protocol guys, obviously Glenn Schofield had his hands all over the Dead Space franchise, and now he's working on the Callisto Protocol, which is in the PUBG universe. But you can really see a lot of ties here, even though we haven't seen a lot as of yet from Callisto Protocol. But it seems like there are definitely a lot of kudos there to Dead Space. So what I'm getting at, guys, is I'm concerned about the future of StarCraft and StarCraft 3, that game ever coming out. And I made a video about that here on the YouTube channel. And the same thing can be said now with Dead Space. I'm starting, the more time goes, the more we're seeing these developers and these creators go from one studio to another, and now they're working on a horror game as well from a different studio that has kind of a vibe of Dead Space or of that nature. You start to wonder, maybe there just are no plans for the foreseeable future in Dead Space. EA just, has left it to be in a state of potential no return, a limbo state. And it's really unfortunate, guys, because it's one of my favorite horror games of all time. But as I said, I'm very bullish and excited about the future of the horror genre, to say the least. I mean, I'm very excited about it. I mean, we're getting more horror games now than we ever have in recent history when it comes to the video game industry. So I'm very excited about all the different titles we're going to be getting. there's just always going to be that emptiness in me that we never got a continuation of Dead Space when I thought that it had so much potential moving forward. But I would love to hear from you guys. Are you guys concerned about Dead Space 4? Do you think there's still a chance that it could come back? What do you think would need to happen for it to come back? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Dead Space 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've talked on the YouTube channel about Immortals Fenyx Rising, and this is a title, guys, that was a very much pleasant surprise to me when I started playing it, sitting down and started playing it on the Nintendo Switch. That's what the console I played it on. And I gotta say, guys, I was very surprised with Immortals Fenyx Rising. And when I say surprised, I mean in a very good way. And I want to talk in this segment of the show because I know there's been people talking about some of the recent comments that I made about Immortals Fenyx Rising in comparison to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I want to kind of just talk about it. I want to get your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. I think this is a great place that we can have real conversation, guys. We're not always going to agree on everything regarding different games and the future of games and what, we think should happen in games that have been canceled, games that are in limbo states, states of no return, and, games that could get continuations and all of those different things, guys. We're not going to agree with everything, but I think it's important that we know that that's okay. It's okay not to agree on everything. That's what makes us human. That we're not going to agree on every little thing regarding, specific titles in the video game industry. It just isn't going to happen, and that's okay. And that's why I think it's great to have conversation about it. So in this segment of the show, guys, I want to talk once again about Immortals Fenyx Rising, but some of my reasoning behind my statement that Immortals Fenyx Rising, in my opinion, was a much better experience overall than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, we know, guys, that's an unpopular opinion. Many of you are going to disagree with that opinion if you played both games, but some of you might see where I'm coming from here. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, although it was well done, guys, it was obviously won a ton of awards. It did, incredible things for Nintendo, and now that franchise, looking forward now, it looks like they're going to have, they've got a number of probably future titles coming out in the Legend of Zelda realm. But my experience with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was not, it was pretty mediocre overall. Did I think the graphics were great? Like, I loved the feel, the vibe you got from the world that you were in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Absolutely. I loved the world. I loved being able to explore, and, just the story itself was very well done. I loved the story as a whole, but for me, that was kind of the brunt of it. That was really the peak for me, was being able to explore, being able to just be in this living, breathing, world, and just being able to kind of explore it and do little side missions and just enjoy it for what it was. But when it came to the main story and the quests and such, some of those quests were great, but I found myself, doing a lot of quests that my character wasn't upgraded enough for, or just didn't have the necessary tools necessary in order to combat some of the enemies I was going up against. And so it created a very frustrating dynamic for me in the way the combat was, the way that, the different enemies that, and having to upgrade your character and such. And, some of those things to me actually were just a little bit more complex than they needed to be. And I gotta say that it got to a point where it was very frustrating to get through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And by the end of it, I was ready to put that game away and never touch it again, kind of thing. Immortals Fenyx Rising for me, which was such a better experience from a combat perspective. Now, what I'm going to say is the story, I like the story of Immortals Fenyx Rising, but I thought that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild had a little bit of a better kind of narrative. I thought that the voice acting in Legend of Zelda was a lot better than that of Immortals Fenyx Rising. But I thought that between the story, the characters, obviously, the world that you're in, I would probably give a lot of those nods to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I thought Immortals still was like that kind of bright and colorful feel that I really liked. But the combat was night and day between Immortals Phoenix Rising and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I thought that the combat in Immortals Phoenix Rising was so much better than the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that I could put this game on top of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild based on the combat alone. Because the combat plays such a pivotal role in you progressing through the story, progressing in this world, that it was such a crucial thing. And I felt that the same way with Legend of Zelda, I thought that the combat needed to be there in order for, there was a standard there that needed to be there in order for me to say Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild just overall is better than Immortals Phoenix Rising, but it wasn't. The combat is just so much better. It's so much more fluid. A lot more exciting. And I gotta say that was really the breaking point for me when it came to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, was the combat. The puzzles and such were great in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Immortals Phoenix Rising, not quite as much. The puzzles and little side missions weren't quite as good as that of Legend of Zelda. But what I will say is that the overall narrative of Immortals Phoenix Rising, I liked it. Just as much really in a number of ways as The Legend of Zelda. There are obviously good things in each of these games and bad things in each of these games, but I just thought that for me, the type of gamer I am, I really enjoyed Immortals Phoenix Rising from a gameplay perspective to just an overall experience. I enjoyed it a lot more than The Legend of Zelda. Legend of Zelda I found was much more frustrating at certain points in time. Immortals was frustrating at times, but I like the different ways, the different types of combat. I loved being able to, just have the Zeus's wings. I think it was Zeus's wings. Being able to, fly, being able to just use your bow and arrow. And even though you're able to use those things, similar, in Legend of Zelda, but it just felt different. It felt so much more fluid. It felt so much, cleaner and smooth. And that's something that really got me to really enjoy Immortals Phoenix Rising. And I think the thing about Immortals was that it knew what it was from a story perspective. It was a little bit goofier, a little bit over the top, and it knew what it was. And I really want to see a continuation of Immortals Phoenix Rising, or Immortals just moving forward. And I think that there's a lot of people that really also enjoyed Immortals in a pretty major way. It was a pleasant surprise. It was a very pleasant surprise to myself. And like I said, there's times, guys, on this YouTube channel that we talk about things that not everyone wants to talk about. We talk about StarCraft 3. Not everybody in the StarCraft community wants to talk about the continuation of StarCraft. Not everybody wants to talk about Call of Duty Ghosts 2, like the upcoming, or a upcoming potential game in the Call of Duty universe, because people have, bad thoughts of Call of Duty Ghosts 1. And this is a title that I always want to talk with you guys and be transparent as far as, how I'm feeling about certain games. And this is certainly one of them, that Immortals Phoenix Rising to me was a much better experience overall than that of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Does that mean Breath of the Wild was a bad game? Absolutely not. It wasn't. But when we compare these two that are very similar in styles, and obviously Immortals was trying to kind of be somewhat like Legend of Zelda. It's kind of like a lot of these games nowadays are trying to be kind of like The Last of Us, right? In the horror genre. Lots of games are trying to become somewhat like The Last of Us, like The Day Before, and a number of other titles that have come out, guys, in this space where they're trying to be like The Last of Us. We're starting to see now on the flip side of this, where The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was so well regarded by everyone. You got games that are coming out now that are trying to they're trying to compete against it. And I think that's a very good thing. I want to see the continuation of Immortals, though. I want to see more games in this universe. I want to see more ways that we can connect with the franchise, though, that being co-op and multiplayer modes. Because when I look at, games like this, after you're done playing the story, a lot of times you're not going to play it anymore. You might go and do some side missions and things of that nature, but most likely if you beat the the game once or twice, you're going to move on to other games. So I think having co-op and multiplayer would absolutely keep you immersed in it. And it's a way that you could even one up once again on The Legend of Zelda, having more modes than they do, obviously, to really appeal to the masses. So that's really my thoughts on it, guys. I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. What makes you like Immortals Phoenix Rising more than Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Or what is it that makes you like Breath of the Wild more than Immortals Phoenix Rising? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And for more Immortals Phoenix Rising content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. There's been a lot of talk about the continuation of the God of War franchise, and a lot of people are starting to get a little bit concerned that we haven't really heard much about the upcoming God of War title, which is codenamed God of War Ragnarok. And I gotta say, if they name it God of War Ragnarok, I would be totally down with that, guys. But fear not, it sounds like we are getting a little bit more information. We should be hearing a lot more very soon on the upcoming God of War title. And I want to go ahead and talk about the things that we know so far and where is God of War Ragnarok at this point in time. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article written by Vic Hood and Henry Leger of Tech Radar, a God of War sequel is confirmed for PS5. God of War Ragnarok is coming, and you can expect it to land on PS5 consoles in 2021. Now, first of all, guys, before we go any farther, I think it's really important to understand that, yes, it sounds like it's going to come out in 2021, but take it with a pinch of salt because of the ongoing situation we have in our world right now. There's a really good chance that it may get pushed back further into 2022 just based on seeing a lot of these other games having to be delayed and such because, you know, obviously they're not able to maybe work as efficiently working from home and things of that nature. So just kind of keep that and keep the 2021 date, keep your fingers crossed on it, but don't obviously take it with a pinch of salt. Sony dropped a teaser for the God of War sequel at the end of its price release date reveal event, confirming what we all hope for, a return of Kratos and his son, and still in the world of Norse mythology visited in the previous game. We've had little to go on in the past few years since the landmark God of War game first launched on PS4, earning our Game of the Year accolade at the time, other than the series creative director Cory Barlog dropping hints about a colder location. So, look, I am very excited about this game, but I don't really like that about the colder location, guys. I don't like that at all because to me, I thought that there was way too much, snowy environments in the God of War that came out, I believe, in 2016. When that came out, it was a great game overall, but I just didn't really like all the snowy locations. Having colder location, that kind of concerns me a little bit. There's still not much to know about the game other than that it is coming, and it will be called Ragnarok, the name of cataclysmic series of events in Norse mythology, which is fitting for a game where you're almost certainly going to be wreaking havoc and killing Norse gods. So let's talk about a few things, guys. God of War Ragnarok, the release date. We don't know a firm release date for the game, but we do know it's coming in 2021. The brief teaser suggests gameplay isn't ready to be shown off, which suggests to us that we're looking at late 2021 rather than early 2021, and probably after Horizon Forbidden West, which we've had a much more substantial look at, which I'm very excited about Horizon Forbidden West as well, guys. Now, as far as the trailer, you guys can check out the trailer, the teaser that came out. News and some of the rumors, guys. God of War Ragnarok was briefly teased at the end of the PS5 showcase event on September 16th, where Sony also announced the price and release date of the next-gen PS5 console. As far as job listings are concerned, guys, as spotted by Games Radar, SIE Santa Monica Studio posted job listings last year for a number of roles across its programming, art, design, and tech art teams, which one listing clearly citing the God of War reboot. So, I think it's very clear, guys, that this game is definitely coming. It's not like we're going to get like some kind of surprise where it's like, has nothing to do with God of War, based on the job listings, the teaser that came out, all of those different things, guys. This game is coming. My biggest question mark is, when is it coming? Is it definitely going to be called Ragnarok? And, are we going to see it this year or next year? And what's it all going to encompass? Is it just going to be a single player story again? Is it going to have co-op modes, multiplayer modes? What's it all going to have? And can the locations just not always be snowy locations for the most part? That's another thing I would really hope for. So, as far as God of War DLC is concerned, God of War director Cory Barlog had said there were originally plans for DLC for the 2018 reboot, but said they were halted for being too ambitious. That means the studio can invest resources into an entirely new game as opposed to post-launch content. So I said 2016, it was the 2018 reboot, guys, that came out. And that was another thing. The fact that it was only a single-player story, and it also didn't have any DLC, was just really bizarre to me. Even though it sold really well, I don't really think that that business model is going to be very sustainable long term. I just feel that for a $60 price tag, you have to have more options for people, when there's so many options for those gamers to play free-to-play games, or things of that nature. God of War, I think Ragnarok, or whatever it's called, really needs to be a title, in my opinion, that has a full package, that after you're done playing the single player story, you're able to play with your friends, you're able to play multiplayer elements, and I think that would be really important moving forward. Also, as far as a PS5 update, to make the wait for God of War Ragnarok a little easier, Sony Santa Monica have released a God of War PS5 update that boosts the game's resolution to a checkerboard 4K resolution while maintaining a 60 FPS target. Hopefully this means that Ragnarok will continue the pleasing trend of more PS5 games hitting 60 FPS, even if it means compromising or dropping the resolution slightly to achieve it. So, here is some things that we want to see from God of War 2 or God of War Ragnarok. Exploring that ending further. So obviously, guys, spoilers here. At the end of God of War, we found out that Kratos' wife, Faye, was actually a giant called Laufey. That means Atreus is half god and half giant. And what's more, he has a different name altogether, Loki. You know Loki, the trickster of Norse mythology. However, God of War 2 will explore this further, and we'll find out more about Faye's secret past, as well as why she kept it all a secret in the first place. We're also hoping Atreus will embrace the shape-shifting abilities that Loki is notorious for, instead of simply staying on the sidelines firing arrows at enemies. And Atreus isn't a boy anymore. The God of War sequel may continue on directly from the events of the previous game. However, we think it would be more interesting to see how a teenage Atreus and grumpy dad Kratos fare on an adventure. I agree with that. I've stated this before, guys, that, to me, I really want to see kind of the passing of the torch. I want it to go from Kratos over to Loki, right? I want us to play as Kratos throughout the course of the game, but at the end of the game, I would love to see Kratos kind of pass that torch where we take the helm as Loki moving forward in the future of God of War games. I think it would be a great title to do that, and I hope we see that. It's hard to say if we will or not. To me, though, I obviously want to see a full package, guys, with multiplayer and co-op modes added to this. I think that would be really great. I'd like to see more variety of environments and locations, new enemies, some new characters come into the fray. Obviously, we want to have, some of the same, characters and some of the same enemies, but we want to kind of continue to evolve. And I'm sure SIE Santa Monica will be doing that moving forward. But there's a lot of things here, guys, that I'm very excited about. Where is this title, guys? I think it's still obviously being worked on at this point in time. There is obviously concern that, when is this game coming out? Are we going to see it soon? And things of that nature. But I do believe that we are going to see it sooner rather than later. As far as even if the game comes out in 2022, we're probably going to at least see some gameplay, some more trailers, and that's something I'm really excited about. But let me know, guys, what are you guys most excited about with the upcoming God of War Ragnarok title? And what are some things that you guys want to see? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more God of War Ragnarok content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. every year, guys, when the next Call of Duty is kind of coming into view, we always start speculating on when and like the time period, what this game is all going to encompass. Obviously, guys, every Call of Duty, I mean, we're getting a new Call of Duty every single year from Activision, and so we always look forward to it, right? Well, this year, that being 2021, there are some things coming out about the COD this year and the time period that it could be set in. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, written by Keshav Bot of Charlie Intel, Call of Duty, this is a rumor, by the way, guys, Call of Duty 2021 will be set during World War II era. A new rumor about the upcoming Call of Duty 2021 game has surfaced, which claims to leak the setting of the new title. The newest Call of Duty title is set to be released during Q4 of this year from Activision. Known leaker Victor Z posted a couple of tweets overnight suggesting some details on the setting for the 2021 Call of Duty game. In his tweets, he states that the 2021 game will be set during World War II era. His tweet included a hammer emoji, probably in reference to Sledgehammer Games as the game's development studio, and the World War II cover art. A user asked him if he meant to say that it would be World War III style game instead, but Victor Z responded again saying World War II. A World War III game, which some people have suggested would not make sense, really, seeing as World War III style game would be similar to that of the story behind Modern Warfare franchise. Of course, this is just a rumor for now and not confirmed by Activision, so take it with a grain of salt. However, the leak Victor Z has known to accurately leak information in gaming, including Call of Duty. He accurately stated that the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War reveal trailer back in August would include a 10-second multiplayer preview, amongst other information he has shared in the past. Sledgehammer Games' last title was Call of Duty World War II back in 2017, which focused on the European front of the war. There's still some moments and conflicts of World War II that can be explored by Sledgehammer Games if this rumor is in fact true. Activision, of course, has not announced any details about the 2021 Call of Duty game. The company only just confirmed that a new premium entry into the franchise will release in Q4 this year. So let's talk about it, guys. Call of Duty World War II. I have been very thankful for World War II as, you know, a Call of Duty entry coming after Infinite Warfare, because I believed, as I stated many times, guys, that we had Advanced Warfare, which I thought was fine. I thought that was a pretty fun. It was like a different title. Everybody in the community wanted something totally different. We got something totally different in the form of Advanced Warfare with the advanced movement system, jetpacks, and things of that nature. Then we had Black Ops 3, which I thought was really moving us into the dark ages of Call of Duty, and Infinite Warfare really solidified that 3-year period was really the dark ages. Advanced Warfare to me was okay, but that's kind of what started the dark ages of COD. Then we got to World War II, and that started to bring us back into, you know, back into the golden ages of Call of Duty, so to speak, if you want to put it that way. World War II kind of started it. Even though I didn't think it was a great title, it was moving us in the right direction. Boots on the ground, gritty feel, back to kind of what Call of Duty was all about in the first place. Then, of course, we got, you know, Black Ops 4, which I thought was fantastic. Modern Warfare, which I thought was even a better step in the right direction. And then Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which I think, once again, is still a great title when you think of the entirety of it, right? So, what do I think about this, World War II? I don't really like it. I don't like us going back to World War II, guys. I've stated many times that I like kind of moving forward, you know, present or, you know, kind of semi-futuristic, or you can even go, you know, into really far into the future, but don't have jetpacks and things of that nature. Keep it still Call of Duty. World War II has been done so many times. I disagree with the article stating that there's still things that they could do with World War II. So much has been done in movies, in gaming, when it comes to World War II, even World War I. To me personally, I think World War III would be a lot more interesting because it's something that hasn't happened. And I think they could really have a lot of creative freedom there. Sure, it'd be similar to to Modern Warfare, but I would much rather they did that than another World War II title. Just knowing that World War II, there were a lot of complaints around it. A lot of people did not enjoy it. This is kind of a title that's reminding me of what happened with Call of Duty Ghosts when that came out. We got Call of Duty Ghosts and we thought that this was going to be something pretty special. It comes out and, it was pretty underwhelming for a lot of people. There was like a couple of good maps and the multiplayer was all right. I thought the campaign was fantastic for Ghosts, but overall, it just wasn't a great experience. And what happened was they decided, that being Activision, to move into a totally new direction where we were going to get some fresh new games that were going to be totally different in the form of the advanced movement and jetpack era. I see that happening. If another World War II title happens this year, I'm predicting it right now that come 2022, we're going back to jetpacks. Whether that's, Advanced Warfare 2 or a Modern Warfare title that has jetpacks or whatever it is, Infinite Warfare 2 or, a Black Ops title that's going to be jetpacks. Whatever it is, I think that we're moving in that direction right now. And I've stated that, I don't want to go backwards like that. I don't want to go back to the jetpack era. I just feel like there's so much more that we can do in the present day and in the future when it comes to these titles. But I understand, Call of Duty and Activision wanting to kind of reminisce in the past somewhat, because that's kind of what started this franchise in the first place was, those past, obviously those past world wars and such. And as it's kind of evolved over time to modern day, to the future, to be honest with you guys, another World War II title, to me, I would almost put it on the same pedestal. I would be just as interested to see an Advanced Warfare 2 as another World War II game, because we've had so many World War II games and we've only had one Advanced Warfare title. I would almost want to see Sledgehammer do another Advanced Warfare title over another World War II title. Obviously, I don't want us to go back into the jetpack era, but I just think that World War II and World War I have been done so many times, and it's just going to be kind of just another year that you're just trying to kind of almost get through to see what comes next. I would much rather see a World War III title. I'd much rather see a modern day or a futuristic game just with boots on the ground. But that might not be what's happening, because Victor Z has been very good at leaking these things, and they've been accurate. So it concerns me, guys. It really does. I want to hear your guys' thoughts about it. Do you guys want to see another World War II title? Would you rather see a World War III, a futuristic title, a different time period, modern day? What do you guys want to see? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Call of Duty content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.